Well, let's discuss this further with immigration solicitor Harjap Singh Bhangal. Good to have you with us. This story, have you heard it before?
Many times, thousands, if not tens of thousands of times. It's been previously very easy to obtain student visas with dependents. There are many facets to the amount of fraud going on, from loan sharks or agents, people approaching them, lending money, putting them in their account, generating an essentially fake bank statement, to, in fact, fake marriages being carried out in order to bring people over to the UK, and a couple separating as soon as they land. So the frauds are extensive, and as a result of the incompetence of the Home Office. That's the only thing really we can deduce from all of this.
The incompetence of the Home Office, your words there. What do you mean by that? What's not being done well enough from their perspective?
Well, previously, say about 20 years ago, most applicants used to be interviewed by the Home Office at embassies, by the Foreign Office, where immigration officers would make a decision in person after checking documents, after verifying where the source of these funds came from. When the system changed, all it required was two pieces of information to get a student visa. One was something called a CAS letter, which you've shown in your documentary there, which is called a certificate of acceptance of studies, which was issued by the university themselves. And two was just a bank statement showing you've held the funds in your name for 28 days without asking where the source of these funds came from. So what happened was agents began to approach poor families in countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Ghana, even Brazil. And they said to them, we'll lend you this money at an interest rate as part of our service. You hold this money in your bank to the applicants, and at least people had the money for fees. But when these applicants landed in the UK, they had to pay the money back to the agents. They had zero in their account. They didn't go to university because they couldn't pay the fees. So the universities wrote to the Home Office and the visas were cancelled. And thus created a whole generation of people who shouldn't have been here, are here, can't work. Many of them are with spouses and children. The children are going to school, and these people are working cash in hand in the black economy and essentially hiding from the Home Office as overstayers, or they're putting in frivolous applications in order to frustrate removal. This is essentially what's happening.
Out of a representative sample of, say, 100 people that had followed this process, what would your assumption be regarding the numbers who have stayed in the UK, the numbers who have maybe been returned back to their countries of origin?
Well, they'll only be returned if they're caught or they voluntarily, say they want to go back due to a dire situation they're in. But essentially, if somebody's so poor that they've had to go to a loan shark in order to deceive immigration to come here, they'd have to pay the loan shark's fees off, or the agent's fees off, which are £15,000 to £20,000. They're not going to go back until they've paid that money. So for them, it hasn't been a profitable exercise. Now, many of them had to sell their land, had to sell their belongings, even their homes to get here. So they've got nowhere back to go back to. We essentially have got somewhere to go back to, but they've got nothing to go back to except for debt. So they're not looking, anyone who's used this method is not looking to go back to come through. Genuine students don't need an agent. Many international students who come here genuinely, in fact, the majority of them, I'd say about 95% of them, do not need an agent. They can fill out the application themselves. They apply to the international office at uni themselves, and they get their visa themselves. If people are approaching agents who are unlicensed, unregulated in their countries back home, are not even charged, sent to jail, convicted back home, not within the reach of the UK government to prosecute either. And if they're going to these people, they're going to them for a specific reason. Now, the person in your documentary, he approached the agent for a specific reason. He admitted that within his own situation, he could never have got to the UK. So the agent created a scenario for him where he could get to the UK. And he had no intention. He also said they had no intention of studying in the UK, and never even went to university. So the university potentially gave a place to an applicant. They received partly, if not all, of their fees. And then that place was empty. And the universities will actually tell you, international offices, exactly what the percentage of people are who don't turn up from international students, who they give places to get the visas, but don't turn up, or they drop their course midway, or they don't pay their fees. And they are in vast numbers. They're not small numbers. It's not 5 or 10 people a year. They're in the thousands.
What, briefly, do you think the Home Office, the government can do to rectify the situation and to close this loophole? Because, like you say, the agents are out of the reach of the jurisdiction of the authorities here.
Well, interviews and source of fund, inquiries should be mandatory. Should be mandatory. We have embassies abroad. What is the purpose of them? Of the visa officers, if they're just there to stamp visas, they should be there to see who's genuine and who not. That's what they used to be. That's what the role of embassies used to be. Now it's just a rubber stamp process and just an admin process where people can get a visa in even 10 days without anything pretty much being checked. The government are putting more onus on universities. So what the government have recently done is said if there are large numbers of places found where international students haven't turned up, then the Home Office will consider revoking the sponsor licenses of the universities and ability to call students over from abroad. The sham marriage situation, where people were paying other people to marry them and take them abroad as a dependent, that has come to a halt with the fact that when dependents were stopped recently by the government, and in fact the Conservatives, when they announced it just before the general election, and that has put a sort of stop to that. However, the whole scenario of showing fake funds in your bank account to get a visa, that still goes on. So that's still going on to this day, and we see that every admission time around about September or January. So the government is tightening the loopholes. However, this has only arisen, the loopholes have arisen, due to the incompetence of the previous government and the previous system in place. It is a shambles. The Home Office is not fit for purpose. Every year we have a Select Affairs Committee report, and the MPs hear it, which tells us this, and yet nothing is done about it, essentially. The whole establishment of the Home Office needs a whole overhaul. And this is not the first scandal. The recent scandal, which Sky News talked about the care worker visas, where we saw people who didn't have any qualifications in care were coming over here to essentially come over here and told that there weren't any jobs for them. And now they're destitute and on the streets as well. And they've got thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, who've come over here to work, but with no job. And so therefore, this whole system, regardless of student visas, colleges, is a shambles.
Terribly sorry. The top of the hour is fast approaching. We'll have to leave it there, I'm afraid, but really appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for joining us there live from Toronto. Just to let you know, actually, Sky News will be hosting the immigration